Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here again, and if this is your first time here, thank you for clicking on it. I'm gonna ask y'all to go ahead and like, subscribe, comment about this video, about the other videos that you watch, and if you have anything that you want to share, go ahead and comment. I do reply to, I like conversation. Basically, I like having conversation about certain topics, so do what you do. All right, so I had seen this thing on like a little quote or a saying on Facebook, so I screenshotted it. I was like, ooh, that's good. And let me just tell y'all, I didn't try to fix my clothes and so many different times before starting this video, and y'all know I don't edit nothing as of now, so it is what it is. So anyway, so it says, so the quote says, "This world has forgotten about God, and I got a feeling he's about to remind us who he is." And that just spoke to me, because that's how I feel. I feel like we're in those times where God is about to remind us who he is. And I say that because, okay, so I wanted to name this, like make the title of this, and I still might, make God great again, because, and this is a gripe I've had for a while now, that God is not, where's God? God is not around. I know back in the day when I was younger, mind you, I get on my soapbox and I speak about this all the time, so let me just warn y'all now. But anyway, yeah, like back in the day, God was a thing. It was, we feared God, we went to church, everybody was in the masjids. Mind you, I just want to throw it out there, I didn't grow up Muslim, but I'm from Philly, so that was a thing. Everybody was Muslim, you know what I mean? Like, that's just been a thing. So anyway, neither here nor there. Yeah, so I just feel like God is not a part of households anymore. Let me take my charger off because it's hot outside and I know it's going to get hot. God is not a part of households anymore. I work in schools. I've been working in schools for since like 2017. I've been working with children and families since 2017. I've been working in schools since 2018. And I just noticed that, like, these kids, and I know all of y'all know this, like, come on, everybody's talking about it. The children nowadays are out of control. I don't know if y'all remember that whole thing where it was like demon time. Come on now. Like the kids are running amok. They're in chaos. There's nothing structure going on. Keyword structure. I'm gonna get back to that. But like, it's just crazy out here. All the violence that's going on. Like I said, I'm from Philly, and I know all the other urban areas. It's probably just as bad as what's going on out here. It's crazy. Mind you, I work with high school at-risk youth, so I see it firsthand every day. The lack of God in our households, in our lives, is showing. It's showing. These kids don't fear anything. They don't have any respect. They don't know self-worth. They don't have anyone, a lot of them, who they think believe in them. They feel like, literally, when I talk to some of my kids at my school, they're like, for what? It's crazy out here. It's about to be over anyway. Like, they feel like it's just destruction. They're being brought up in destruction, and they can feel that. And I believe it's because of the absence of God. We want to be all spiritual now, in the sense of like, oh, believing in the universe, praying to the ancestors. I spoke on this before as well. And there's no God anymore. And I know people are, distrustful of religion, and I know it's a lot of rules and things like that. And people are just, the institutions of religion have turned people off. I understand that, but you can separate God from institutions. let me tell you something. So I've been watching The Chosen. I don't know if I mentioned this in my past videos. I've been watching The Chosen on Amazon Prime. And I love it because it talks about before Jesus as well. You know, it just talks about like Moses, and also it talks about life before the Bible. And it talks about, of course, they had the Torah, you know, so they still have written word, but it just shows how some of them had never even heard or read. Some of them didn't even know how to read, but God still penetrated their heart. And that can still be a thing. You do not need religion, like institution, to have relationship with God. You know what I mean? Like, now God might start you off with just something in your heart, and then he might guide you to those things, whatever it is that, you know, is going to help you to be able to relationship with him better. But you don't have to do that. And just a side note, because this just, I want to speak on this real quick. And just because you are in church and stuff like that does not mean you have a relationship with God either. Just because you go to the institutions, masjid, church, or wherever else, you all know those are the two things I speak on, because those are the two religions that I've actually practiced or experienced in my life. But any other religions, just because you attend the institutions does not mean that you are a follower of God. So there are believers of God, people who know that there is a God, they believe in God. And then there are followers of God, people who make conscious decisions, choices every day to seek and follow God's guidance. I've been on both sides of the coin. So I've been a believer of God. Like I said, my grandma, bless her soul, I don't even know if that's a thing to say. Listen, I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to, you know what I mean? So whatever. So my grandma, she raised me in church. So, you know, that's where I got my foundation. So I always knew that God was real. I was always a believer, but it wasn't until I was grown, and I'm talking 3 years ago grown, that I made a conscious decision that I wanted to follow God and be obedient to God. Now, like I said, because some people want to say, oh, well, man wrote Bible, I'm not listening to that, da-da-da. That's a whole nother conversation, because God can use anybody to do anything. Like, okay, man wrote Bible. Okay, man could write anything, but the inspiration, the revelation, who did that come from? Where did that come from? So that's a whole nother conversation for another day. God's revelation is real, period. Now, I understand that y'all might think that, you know, the books are tainted because, you know, you can't trust in man. Okay, whatever. But I know that God will penetrate in your heart. God will give you whatever words you need, whatever guidance you need. He will give that to you, and he will put it in your spirit. For example, before I became Muslim, because one thing I want to say about Islam, it provided me with so much structure that I needed. It saved my life. It taught me so much on how to have, and I said this before, self-respect, boundaries, how to live a better life. But before that, so one thing about Islam, you can't drink alcohol. You know, that's not a thing. You do not drink alcohol. You're not supposed to. We all have free will, but it teaches that alcohol is not good for you and you are not supposed to drink it. Now, before I became Muslim, I remember I believed that God had put, and this was when I was like, you know, really praying to God. Like, my life was in shambles at this time, and I was just like, God, I need you. So at this moment, I was seeking God. You know what I mean? I had fallen, and then I was like, God, I need you. Come pick me up, please, please. So of course, God came. You know, he always gives us, he wants us to come running back to him. So I had came running back to him. God, I need you. And God had put in my spirit, well, I really believe, you know, God had put this on my heart. You need to stop drinking. I said, God, what? Because, you know, I come from a background of like being in college, Thirsty Thursdays. Now it's me, it's who I am. And it's like, come on now. What do you mean? That's how I get all my fun. How am I have fun without no drink? God said, yeah, you got to stop drinking. So I was like, well, I'm going to go 30 days no drinking. Or was it 40? I'm going to go 40 days without drinking, right? I had drunk some wine. So let me tell you about this too. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to drink no alcohol. One night I went out. I was like, ooh, wine. I could drink wine. Here I go. Just lying to myself. God said don't drink, period. But then I wanted to, oh, well, Jesus turned water into wine. I can go ahead and drink wine. God told you don't drink, period. Like, God didn't say nothing about, well, some people were allowed to drink wine. God put in your heart, he does not want you drinking, period. He don't want you drinking. So I went that night and I had some wine and I acted a total fool off of wine. I'm not lying, because I had overdid it. I became super drunk off of wine because, you know, I wanted that. I was thinking the whole time I'm drinking, thinking like, oh, it's just wine, da-da-da. Yeah, girl, you got ridiculously drunk off of wine and I acted a fool. And I said, you know what, God, my bad. So I say all that to say that God will put it in your spirit, in your spirit, the things that you need to do. He will give you the guidance. And the more you follow God and are obedient to him, the more he will give you his word, his revelation, because that's one thing that's always going to happen. God is always going to pair his guidance that he's giving you with some scripture. That's what I believe, with some revelation. I'm gonna call it revelation. God is going to give you revelation with the more you seek him. You know what I mean? The more you seek God, the more he's going to give you, like, I guess it's like confirmations of like, yes, I said this, or yes, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? But it has to be like a constant thing. And I say that because during a part of my journey, like, I would use God as a quick fix. So it would be like, I'd be like, God, I need you. And God would come, you know, and I would be maybe obedient for like a short period of time and I would feel better. And then I'd be like, oh, thank you. Cause I wasn't hurting anymore. You know what I mean? The pain was gone because I was following God and I was being obedient. The pain was gone. But just as soon as the pain went away, I went right back to, you know, the foolishness and then the pain. And then it was like a cycle. And it wasn't until literally, like, I keep saying 3 years ago, but now it might be 4 years ago. I don't know, whatever. Within this last 5 years or so, I literally made a conscious decision to not just be a believer in God, but to be obedient and follow God. And with following God, it came something I think is very important that we all need. The children need it, the adults need it. It's how you thrive. Structure. I needed structure. And God had to teach me that structure. And everybody doesn't come from that. So, like, there are some people out here that come from a place where, you know, they were raised. I don't want to say raised right, but I feel like a lot of y'all know what I mean when I say raised right. But, you know, I'm going to say it also in a way that no one, you know, I try not to offend anyone. Some people were raised in a healthy household. You know, let's say they had mom and dad, or let's say even if they only had mom was healthy, or even if they only had dad was of sound mind or something like that. So, you know, there's levels to being brought up, and I ain't gonna say raised right, raised healthy. There's levels to that. Those of us who were raised in little, like, chaotic situations, structure is something that might be foreign. I know it was foreign to me. I had no idea where to even start with being better. I was raised in chaos. You know what I mean? Like, shout out to my parents. They know their story. They know I love them. So ain't no shade to like my parents. Ain't no shade. But, like, you know, my parents were on drugs. Not my father. I don't know what my father's doing because I didn't really know my biological father like that. I knew him, you know, I had like conversations, but I didn't have like a strong relationship with him. He lived literally on the other side of the country. And I didn't have like a real good relationship with him. But the man who helped to raise me, him and my mom, they both were on drugs. Now, I ain't gonna lie, they were functioning addicts, what I like to call functioning addicts. But anyway, I say all that to say, because life got crazy quick, like, since a youngin'. But I say all that to say is I didn't know. I had no guidance. I didn't know how to be anything but in survival mode. So God had to show me in a way that was like, all right, baby girl, I got to start you from the basics. And I really believe that's why at one point of my journey where I was like totally lost and going, and I'm talking about like ain't nothing that can, ain't no gospel song, ain't no, cause none of that's gonna bring me back. Ain't none of that. I needed specific instructions on how to behave, and that is Islam. Gives you specific instructions on how to behave, and I needed that. So that structure, don't do this, don't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that, that saved my life. Saved my life and taught me so many things. Now here's another thing that I want to say. This is how I look at Islam. I look at Islam as, first of all, I believe that it's God's revelation. You know, that's just me. I believe that. So when I was in college, right? I took acting classes. My teacher, she used to tell us, like when we audition for something, she would say, go big, and then we'll scale it back as needed. But if you go big, then when you do scale it back, it'll be, you know, it won't be bad. You'll still be good, but shoot for that. Shoot for the highest of the height, right? So she would be like, if you go in there, you know, if you, let me see emotion. She'd be like, be happy. And happy couldn't just be like, no, happy, she wanted us to go with the, like, you know what I mean? Like manic happy. Go big and then we'll scale it back. That's how I look at Islam. Here is the roof. This is the ceiling on how to behave. Because when you fall, which we will, God knows that we're not going to be perfect. He knows that. But when you do fall a little bit, you still won't be bad. You'll still be in my good graces. So for instance, and I'll use myself as an example. I know there's this thing with like exposing our sins. As Muslims, we do believe in concealing our sins. So, may God forgive me. But I do want to be transparent just so, you can relate and understand what I'm trying to explain to you. So with drinking alcohol, for instance, when I first took my Shahada, which when I first became Muslim, for those couple of years, I didn't drink no alcohol. I said, I'm not drinking. The religion tells me not to drink. I'm not drinking. So guess who didn't drink alcohol? I ain't gonna lie. The first year as a convert, Muslim is kind of, you still trying to find your way. By my second year, I had it. I was that Muslima, okay? I was her. And, all right, I ain't gonna lie, I still had some ways to go. Yeah, but I was doing well. So I was not drinking. And fast forward to now, I barely drink. And I went from a person who would drink. You know what I mean? Like I said, I come from the college time where it's Thirsty Thursdays and then Friday, Saturday. I had to drink all the time. I'm out in my 20s. I'm young. I'm out here. And that's back in the day where all you had to do was show up as a female and you ain't even had to have a pocketbook on you, let alone some money. What? You are leaving there drunk. Somebody's gonna buy you some drinks. So I grew up in that. So that was a thing for me always. But, with going through that time of not drinking at all because of, me being obedient to what God had guided me to, now I barely drink. I'm talking about like I might have maybe one drink here and there, like literally. And I know my tolerance level now too. Like I'm not on some like, I have to, no. You know how many times I'd be like, I don't even want to drink. I could be at a whole party, get together, and I'm like, no, I'm cool. And I know how to have fun too. Because before I didn't even know how to have fun without alcohol. That was foreign to me. I'm like, what? It's going to be boring. I'm going to be sad, depressed. Now I'll go anywhere. Everybody else drinking and I'm not, and I'm still having a great time because God used that time to help me, structure my life. So that's just one example of like how you go big and then, you can scale it back because so Muslims believe that you cannot drink at all. But from what I think I read and I think I heard, and if you Christian, you can definitely leave in the comments and like teach us, give us some knowledge. But Christians believe that as long as you don't become like a drunkard or like severely drunk, you're good. You know what I mean? So And I'm one of the people that believe that when it comes to God, many truths can happen at once, because God is that multi-dimensional. He's that amazing. His ways are not our ways. You know what I mean? So I don't even argue with people about religion and stuff like that, because what God has for you, he might not have needed for me. And 15, 20 things could be true at once, because God's ways are not my ways. His understanding is greater than my understanding. So I don't argue about religion. Whatever God put in your heart, that's what he put in your heart. You know what I mean? So yeah, so having that structure, even when it came to how I'm supposed to dress, how I'm supposed to be treated, structure. And that's something that we need. Let me bring it back to what I was talking about before I run off on a tangent. We need to get back into knowing God, not just believing in God. Well, first of all, these kids, like, we in a time where I don't even know if people believe in God anymore. You know what I mean? We are more likely to say we believe in the universe, and not for nothing, no shade to people who do say that. But now there are some people out here who are excluding God and adding in universe. You know what I mean? So it's like they're taking away. There's like as if there is no God, and then you got to pray to the universe. So that is a problem. You know, that can become a problem. So for those of you who understand it and y'all do it how y'all do it, like I said, God knows your heart, and I'm not here to argue about what God puts in anybody's heart. But for the people who are taking God away and putting the universe in place of God, that's not a thing. You know what I mean? That shouldn't be a thing. God comes first, and God needs to be said God. So even if you mean, well, like I said, I can't argue, but in my belief, you start saying the universe so much, you might as well just say God. Like, why not say God? Now, though God knows everyone's heart, so maybe some people are a little tainted by whatever happened by that word. I don't know. Like I said, I don't judge people, because my journey is not like anyone else's journey, and I know it's people judging me severely, and it's like, that's why I try to follow God, because only God can judge me. And I mean, that's like literally, like at the day of judgment, no one else is going to have the authority to judge me. No one else knows what's in my heart. No one else knows my intentions. So literally, like, only God can judge me. So whatever. But I do believe that we need to bring God back. We need to bring God back. And I do believe that God is, you know, God gonna do what God do. So I do believe that he is showing us, like, he's giving us the opportunity to, you know, he's reintroducing himself. He's reintroducing himself, because many have forgotten about him. Those who believe in him do not walk with him. They do not, they're not obedient to him. None of that. They're just believers in God. And God needs everyone's full attention. God needs everyone's full attention. And he needs people to decide and to know. Give them, at least God will give you a chance to say, oh, you trying to follow me or no? You know what I mean? You trying to go this way, or because I just, you know, I need to know who to take with me when the time comes. And I, you know, so I do believe that that's where God is at with it right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what type of time you want? Who you with? Oh, all right. I was just making sure. So yeah, just be mindful of, like, being a believer of God and then being a follower of God. Believing in God and following God, two separate things. And if you don't know, if you're somebody who, you know, you believe in God and you like, dang, am I following God? Go to God with it. Pray on it. Pray on it and see what God says. And like I said, it might not be the answers you want to hear. You might have to give up some things that you don't want to give up. But I promise you, your life is going to get better. Your life is going to get so much better when you follow God and are obedient to him. You'll have so much more peace in your life. Do you understand? In these past 2 years, I don't think I've had a bad day. Now, I've had things happen that was like, dang, woo. But like, break down, cry, and feel like life is over. Oh no, that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened. Because even if I start to feel an inkling of that, I go right to God. And I'm not lying. God is one of the, and I'll tell you about that too. God is one of them gods where it's like, oh, you need comfort? I got you. Oh, I got so many stories of how God just did the smallest thing. One time I don't want to say I tested God, but I guess that's what it is. God knows my heart when I say that. But I'm like, God, if you really, you know what I mean, like you say, you know what I mean, let me get this. And then I was like, nah, God ain't gonna do that. Did I get to where I'm going? Where I was at right there. And it was in my heart that was like, yeah, chill, I got you. Because that's how God talk to me sometimes. I got you. I got you. Like, ask and you shall receive. I said, oh, snap. Yo, that's really real. Like, he really showed up and showed out. So now that's my prayer all the time. I just want to let y'all know that. I always, when I don't know what to say, because I'm still trying to learn how to like pray. I just be like, God, show off and show out. Show off and show out with me. Because I want to experience the best. Now, I also know that comes with a level of, okay, well, you want me to show up and show off and show out for you? You got to do what I say. Okay. And God, please be patient with me. Please be patient with me. And God, I do believe God said, all right, I got you. Because my life literally is a testimony of that. And I'll continue to talk about that as, you know, time goes on. I'll continue to make different videos talking about just even the smallest things that God has done that shows that, like, yeah, he got me and I like this. I like this walk. I like this walk way better than what I was trying to do before. So, yeah, that's all. I'm going to end on that note. And just, you know, just if you don't do anything else, just stop and say, God, what's up? How can I walk with you? How can I walk with you? I don't want to just believe in you. I want to walk with you. Can you show me how to do that? That's all you got to do, and see what God says back. All right? All right, don't forget, and I'm going to keep saying this because, you know, I'm trying to build my YouTube up. Like, subscribe, comment, and let me know. Let me know how this God journey is going for you. All right? Thanks. Bye.